All right, Shalom Akim. Before I get started with the lesson, I want to give all praises, honor, and the glory to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahushai, Ba'Hashem, Harakakwadash. And of course, as always, double honors to our apostles and elders that were well a great millstone. And also Shalom to all you sincere Akim that are preaching this word in all truth and in sincerity. So I'm going to start this lesson off right here in Ecclesiasticus, a.k.a. also known as the Book of Sirach, which is in the Apocrypha. All right, I was talking to Jake, the day before yesterday, about the Apocrypha and how Cleopatra, because you got a lot of our people that believe Cleopatra was an African or a Hamite. Okay, you got a lot of our people, that are into this black culture, this Egyptology, Kemet, and all that baloney, and they believe that first and foremost that they are those African people, okay, and also that certain rulers and nobility of Africa were all dark-skinned people, which is not the case, which is another topic for another day. But I was talking to the Jake about how Cleopatra came from Ptolemy, and Cleopatra is in fact an Edomite. Okay, Cleopatra is not a so-called she's not a so-called African or a so-called black woman, if you will. Okay, Cleopatra came from Ptolemy, and Ptolemy, as it mentions in the Apocrypha, is one of Alexander the Great's generals. Okay, he worked for Alexander the Great. Ptolemy did. He was part of Alexander's army. And those are the Greeks, which were Edomites. And I was telling him that the Apocrypha tells you about that for people that have the misconception that the Apocrypha is man-made or some man tried to add to the actual scriptures. Okay. But in all reality, the Apocrypha was part of the scriptures, the Holy Bible. It was taken out. All right. That's why if you go by the 1611 King James Version, it's still intact. Okay. But let's jump right into this lesson. This Ecclesiasticus 25:7. There be 9 things which I have judged in mine heart to be happy, and the 10th I will utter with my tongue. A man that hath joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy. So those are 2 things, okay, out of the 9 things that the righteous, starting with Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai, have judged that brings, happiness that money can't buy, real happiness. And the first one he mentioned is a man that had joy of his children. Here in Babylon, we don't have the full joy of our children. Okay, once they become of age, 3, 4, 5 years old, however they develop mentally, then you start taking them to school, preschool, and they get all indoctrinated by Esau's system. And then they start thinking the way they want to think, thinking the way they feel is right, because of the vibrations they're around. Okay, because of the indoctrination of the education system, which when you look into the word education, it simply means the training of cattle. Because the elite consider us nothing but goyim, which is cattle. Okay, so you really have no joy of your actual children here. You might have a woman that's a straight demon. She takes her children, your children from you. Okay, she's raising them a wicked way, telling them that their daddy ain't shit. All right, now this doesn't always happen, but it does happen to certain brothers. Okay, And then Esau is all in your child's mind. The TV, the entertainment, the school system. Okay, all these philosophies. So you really don't have joy of your children. In the kingdom of heaven, we're going to have complete joy of our children. And we're not going to have to worry about them. You know, everything's going to be perfect. Now the next part, it says, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy. That's what the elect are desperately eager to see. The destruction of Esau, Edom's society, man, his empire. Seeing him go into slavery. Seeing him under the soles of our feet. Seeing him bitch and moan and cry to us the same way our people, you know, the majority of our people are towards him. You got 2/3 of our people, they want to run to Esau for help. You know, they want to run to him for all this aid. They want to cry to him, beg him. Which first and foremost starts with the women of our nation. But you got some simps out there. You got some weak-minded men out there that'll run and cry to Esau. You know? That'll depend solely on Esau. Do anything they can to get free money. Take Esau's medication and call themselves crazy to go get SSI. The next thing you know, you bug out because of all the medication you're on. You know? So that's man, some things that really we really desperately want to have, you know, joy of our children. To see Esau taken out of power, to see him totally destroyed. The fall of our enemies. And it's not just Esau. All these other nations, man, had a part in our downfall. So this is Psalm chapter 83, and I'm going to start at the top. All right? It says, a song or psalm of Asaph. Keep not thou silence, O Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O power. For lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. So the enemies, okay, there's enemies of the Lord. Okay. And it goes into these enemies. It says, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. So these other nations, man, these other people that consult against the Israelites, those are the enemies of the Lord. And they took a crafty counsel. They came together and put a big old scheme, a big old plan to keep us down. That's why you don't have much so-called Black, Hispanic, or Latino-owned businesses here in Babylon. Okay, now if you do, they were greatly successful. Or they're wicked. Okay, they were greatly successful, meaning they ran into some money and put something together and it worked out for them. It took off. You know, like they say, hard work pays off. Hey, man, if you want certain things, you can get them. But it's how much you're willing to do for that. And certain Israelites out there, they're blessed. They have their, I wouldn't say blessed, Salakia, but they have their consolation in this world, in this present life. Now, the consolation of the elect, okay, is to ultimately receive salvation, mercy, okay, to receive this knowledge. But you got some of our people in this current world that are doing good. They're so-called successful in this life. And those people receive their consolation. If you look at the word consolation, it simply means like a prize, or like a how would I say it? Like it's their lot in this world. Okay, this is what they were set up to do. You know, when you go on those games, like The Price is Right and Wheel of Fortune and certain of those games, they'll give somebody a consolation prize. They might not win the money, but then they can receive also a consolation prize, like a car, you know, a washer, a dryer. Okay, so that's the consolation prize of 2/3 of our people. being successful in this life. But for the most part, the majority of us Israelites are at the bottom, catching pure hell. Okay? And all these nations have set up a system under Esau to keep us down. That's why the majority of the businesses you see are ran and owned by Esau or other nations. You know, these beauty salons. If it's a Jake operating the beauty salon, he doesn't own it. Okay? And if they do own it, they're barely making it. Okay, they're barely scraping by. They might have a little bit of pocket change, a little bit of money in the bank, but they're not doing really good, man. Okay? The majority of the ones that are doing good are like Elamite stores, Moabite, so-called Chinese people, Korean people. They'll be selling you women cosmetics. And all these other stores you go to, whether it's a car part you need, whether you're trying to buy some clothes, whether you're trying to buy medicine, you know, certain things, everything is set up to keep Jake down. The entertainment system, all right? It says, verse 4, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. And the ultimate goal was to keep us from finding this truth. Okay? To keep Israel, the elect, from receiving the knowledge. But what they don't understand is this is all part of the Lord's program. Okay, they can do these things, but eventually it's going to have an end. And the end of our enemies is coming nigh. It's coming real soon. Okay, although they are on top right now. Okay, although you got to give your last bit of money to these other nations when you go shop for food or whatever. You know, because you got certain Jakes that live in the hood, in the ghetto. The closest store that they have is a liquor store. That's the closest grocery store they have. And the majority of the time you got Elam, which are the Indians, East Indians. Or you might have Ishmael, so-called Arabs. Or Moab, so-called Chinese. All right? And they have these stores set up and they're charging you double. If not 1.5 times, they're charging you double, triple the price for a product that a Edomite franchise will have, such as Walmart or Save Mart. You know, you cashing out, man. Okay, it says, for they have consulted together with one consent. So they're all in agreement. It says they are confederate against thee. So these other nations that it's about to mention, they're in league against us, man. You know, they're in league against you as a nation, you so-called black Hispanics and Native Americans. Okay? It says the tabernacles of Edom, which Edom are you so-called white people. All right, nobody's really white. Okay, everybody's either a different shade of brown, okay, or red. All right, so-called white people, when they enter, you know, the elements, when they're out in the sun, look at them on the beach. They have to wear a sunblock, sunscreen. If not, they turn red. If not, their skin starts to fry off because they lack melanin. All right. All right. So all these other nations, okay, are against us. And Edom, being the one that's on top the most against us, okay, being the most against us, they're not so-called. I mean, they're not white people, man. They're really red, but they thrive off that term white because what it represents, the definition of it. It says, and the Ishmaelites, which are the Arabs. All right, you had so-called Jews, which are Edomites as well, the tribe of Amalek. They funded the slave trade by giving these other nations money to build the ships, which the Ishmaelites, so-called Arabs, they built the slave ships. But who funded it all were Edomites. okay, which are Amalek. Okay, it says of Moab, which are the Chinese, and the Hagarenes, which Hagar was a so-called African woman, a Hamite woman. All right, and you so-called Negroes, all right, West Indians, Haitians, okay, the Southern Kingdom, they're not African. You're not African. Okay, you fled into the interiors of Africa during 70 AD when the Romans took down Jerusalem. All right, just like when Yahushua, whom the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ, when he was born, where did he flee to? He fled into the interiors of northern Africa, which is Egypt. Okay, and even the land itself. We say so-called Africa or so-called Africans. They're really Hamites. And that land is really the land of Ham. All right? It says Gabal and Ammon, which Ammon, okay, are the so-called Japanese. Then it goes on to say, and Amalek. Amalek, once again, those are Edomites. Now, Amalek is the chief tribe of Edom. Just like how Israel, the chief tribe of Israel is Judah, the so-called Negroes. Okay. So going back to Amalek, Amalek is the head tribe of Esau, Edom. And Amalek also as well are the so-called Jews. All right. They run everything. They control, okay, this world. All right. The rulers of this world are Amalekites. Okay. It says the Philistines. Now the Philistines, with the inhabitants of Tyre at one time, those were also Hamite people. When we went into the land, we had to smite them Philistines. Okay, the Canaanites, all right? Now you had what do you call it? Goliath and them, all right? Now today, who lives in the land of the Philistines, okay, are Arabs, okay, Ishmael as well, all right? But this is going into these nations that are our enemies, okay? This is the majority of the main ones. It says Assur also is joined with them, and Assur is the Assyrian people, the people of Iraq. It says they have hope in the children of Lot, Salah. Right, so those are our enemies, some of the main ones, but really in all actuality, every nation outside of so-called Black, Hispanics, and Native Americans, okay, are our enemy, all right? The 12 tribes are your so-called Black, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And these other nations, our enemies, rule over us in this present time. All right? This is Baruch. I'm going to just start from the top then. You know what? It's Baruch 4:1. This is the commandments of Yahweh. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father, whom the world ignorantly calls God or the Most High. Yahushai is his son, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. And those are two separate beings. Okay, they came in the same, Yahushai was created in the image of his father. Okay, meaning what his father is for, Yahushai is for. That's why Yahushai said in the New Testament that this doctrine is his doctrine, is not of himself. Okay, so they're not separate. They're separate beings, but in mind, they're not separate. Okay, that's where people come in with that whole Trinity bullcrap. Okay. So anyways, it says this is the book of the commandments of the power of Yahweh and the law that endureth forever. So the laws and the scriptures are never going to be done away with. Okay, it says the endureth forever, meaning they're intact, they're solid. Okay, there's no flaw in them. They're perfect. All right? And they're going to be used forever. Like when somebody says that is written in stone, okay? If something's written in stone, right? The only thing you can do is destroy that whole thing. All right? So you try to scratch it, it's still going to be there. It says, all they that keep it shall come to life, but such as leave it shall die. And we couldn't keep the law perfect. That's why we die. That's why we're in this flesh. That's why we're in captivity. That's why we have enemies that are ruling over us. Because we didn't keep the laws, statutes, and commandments perfect. And we're not going to be able to do so until we receive a new heart, a new mind, a new body. Okay? So don't beat yourself up about not being able to keep the law perfectly. That's why we have Yahushai. That's why you pray to Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai. And you pray for mercy. And you keep on pushing. Okay, you keep your faith. You endure the hell you catch. You endure the sufferings you go through of not being perfect. Okay, you got to keep fighting. This is verse 2. Turn thee, O Jacob. And Jacob is synonymous with Israel. Okay, Jacob is synonymous with Israel. So that's referring to you so-called black, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you Israelites. Saying, turn thee, O Israel, O Jacob, and take hold of it. Walk in the presence of the light thereof, that thou mayest be illuminated. Now you can't keep the law, statutes, commandments perfect. Okay, you can't be perfect in this knowledge. But you got to do your best to take hold of those law, statutes, commandments. Taking hold of this wisdom, this spirit of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai. Okay? You got to take hold of it. Hold on tightly to what you have. Just like when they put them in those old money shows, and they put people in a box, and they put like glue on them, or let them flail their arms and catch as much money as they can. You're not going to get all of it. But hey, man, you got to do your best to be in truth and in sincerity with what you have. Okay, that's why there's different ranks in this truth. There's different levels of respect in this truth. Because certain men can retain more and they're not going to bug out. Okay? Turn thee, O Jacob, and take hold of it. Walk in the presence of the light thereof. The light is this truth. Everything contained in the scriptures. Now you got to do your best to keep as much as you can. You're gonna have little, trials and tribulations you go through. But the point is that you remain. It says that thou mayest be illuminated. Give not thine honor to another, nor the things that are profitable unto thee to a strange nation. O Israel, happy are we, for things that are pleasing to Yahweh are made known unto us. And it's all known within these scriptures. Okay? The things that please the Lord. All right? And it's not something you cannot do. It's just the Lord has to give you the spirit to accomplish those things, to keep those things. That's why it's all about the elect. That's why men come into this truth and they don't last long. Some men last months, some do last a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. We've seen men come and go and disappear and vanish because this was not meant for them. Okay? It says verse 5, be of good cheer, my people, the memorial of Israel. We are the memorial of Israel. See, these nations have done everything they possibly can, and they're going to continue to do anything they possibly can to keep Israel from waking up to their true identity. But the elect is going to wake up. That's prophecy. That is the memorial or the remnant of Israel. Verse 6, I'm going to close it with this. You were sold to the nations, not for your destruction. So we went into captivity, we went into slavery. We're suffering to this day under the hand of our enemies, not to be totally destroyed as a nation, man. Okay, the Lord doesn't want to kill all the Israelites. Okay, he loves the Israelites. That's why it says in John, St. John, I'm going to just get it for the truth's sake. John, chapter 3. Okay, let's see, it's up here. 3 and verse 16. All right. Yes, Lakia, I forgot to press play to keep recording. But here's what I was mentioning, John 3 and 16. For Yahweh so loved the world. Now that word for world, when you look it up, it means cosmos, which is a particular world, a particular arrangement of stars, as it says. Now there's all types of stars out there. Millions, if not billions of stars out there. Well, there's got to be billions, if not trillions of stars out there. Or who knows how many. But it's speaking about a particular arrangement of stars, as it says. So a particular world. You got different worlds. You got the world of Edom. Okay, you got SeaWorld. You got, Disney World. So it's not talking about every thing in this world. It's talking about a particular world. And that world is Israel. For God so loved the world, Israel, that he gave his only begotten Son, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus. We call him in his true name, because it said he spoke Hebrew, so he had to have a Hebrew name. His name is Yahushai. Okay, the Lord gave his only begotten Son, set it all up to where eventually he would have to give his life. As it says, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Okay? So Yahushua came into this world to redeem the elect, to give life back to the elect, to be a sacrifice for their sins. Okay? Let's see, where did I leave off? Right. So as it says in verse 6, Baruch 4 and 6, you were sold to the nations, not for your destruction. So we're not going to be totally destroyed as a nation. Yahushua was set up to redeem 1/3 of the nation of Israel. We were sold to the nations. It says, but because you moved Yahweh to wrath, you were delivered unto the enemies. Because we wanted to be a rebellious, stiff-necked, hard-headed nation. Wanted to be at peace with everybody that was against the Lord. And the Lord said, you know what? I'm going to let you be just like those nations, since you love them more than me. Since you want to bug out and do the heathenish, vile customs that they're participating themselves in, I'm going to let you do those things as well. And that's why it says in the first verse, such as Levi should die. As a whole, the nation of Israel is dead. That's why you had the Valley of Dry Bones in the book of Ezekiel. Because Israel died as a nation. But now the Lord is resurrecting, reanimating the nation of Israel through the word. Okay. It says, verse 7, for ye provoked him that made you by sacrificing unto devils, and not to Yahweh by Shem Yahushai. Ye have forgotten the law, Slakia, ye have forgotten the everlasting power that brought you up, and ye have grieved Jerusalem that nursed you. Now I'm going to just jump to the point. I don't want this lesson to drag on. Let's see. Yep. Verse 21. Be of good cheer, O my children. Cry unto the Lord. And what's crying is synonymous with praying. to plead, to beg. And he will deliver you from the power and hand of the enemies. See, so that's what our people have to do. But only the elect, the 1/3, is going to return and do that. That's why they're going to be the only ones to be delivered. But that's something that we eagerly and desperately are waiting for, the elect to be sealed, so that we can be saved from Esau and see his destruction, see his fall. So with that, all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Harakakodash. And of course, as always, double honors to our apostles and elders that rule well at Great Millstone. And shalom to the elect.